Hey, there's 36 Drew coming to you, N3O Clan, representing as always. This here right here will be the last VOD of the year, and since it will be the last, or between now and when I go back to work, which is fairly soon here after enjoying 6 weeks of holidays, I figured I'd make it a 3-pack, and I made them all as Germany. Simply for some consistency, you know. Anyways, what we have here is a 1v1. This is PR32 me versus PR31 on Patagonia. In the starting scenario here, I see 3 X's around my base, which I kind of like, usually. 3 treasures. All of them are of somewhat use. By the way, you'll probably want to grab something to drink and eat in this one, because it's going to be a while. Not this particular match, but this VOD. It's 1 hour and 40 minutes when all is said and done. Which actually is kind of scaring me right now, because I have to sit here for 1 hour and 40 minutes. Hope to hell that this narration works. Hope to hell that when I go to upload it, it doesn't say that it's too big and I can't upload it. That would really make me mad. This guy just asked for a pause to go to the bathroom. Anyway, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the strategy I'm going to use here. He's British. I looked at his deck. My guess as to what he's going to do is he's going to play this match defensively, as you should as a British player. And he doesn't have any cav or musket cards in Age 2, which doesn't necessarily mean anything contrary to popular belief. So I'm thinking that he could turtle and go for the sea, since Germany is not particularly strong on the sea, in which case I'm going to apply a lot of land pressure. There I pop my Explorer into melee against the Outlaw Blowgunner, simply because they have range resistance, so he's got no resistance in hand, and his hand attack is pretty low. And he's one of the stronger guardians that you can take out without a crack shot. It's probably old news to most of you, but some of you guys, you never know. You also notice that I have a couple sheep there, and I do decide to eat the sheep. The reason is this. In Germany, you pretty much exclusively want to age up with 17 villagers, of course sending 2 settler wagons as your first card. You don't always, however, have the exact amount of food you need right at 3 minutes when the age up button should be clicked. So sheep, of course, gather significantly faster than hunts. So I do just task 1 villager to eat up those sheep. One of the things I am going to scout here that I do want to find out is whether or not the left side of the map is open. Patagonia, I think it's just kind of random, like whether or not Great Lakes is frozen over or not. I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to, if it's open in 1v1 or 2v2 or what the scenario is, because I know some maps are based on that. I think that this map is just based on pure randomness. And one of the things I actually did there is I canceled a villager to test to see. It's very rare I can do this as German, but sometimes if you cancel a villager, you will have the 800 food, and you can actually age with 16 villagers. This is a strategy lately that when I've been playing as France's standard villager age up is 14. But I find just because their couriers gather so well that I can often get up with 13. And still have a colonial shipment ready. I'm able to get a nice cav spam or whatever it is, double racks going, just that much quicker, and it actually allowed me to win a mirror match the other day just because I had my military out, 15-20 seconds before his. So of course I go over, there's only 1 visible hunt at this point as a second hunt, so I do go to grab it. being able to grab that 225 food treasure also feels nice, in addition to all those 3 other little treasures that were around my base. I see this hunt up here, which is pretty close to where I'm building my racks. I don't, since I'm playing against Brits, I don't go for defensive racks. I go for an aggressive one. The only difference really is that you don't have to walk across the map, which saves, of course, a little bit of seconds in your military production. The style of play I'm playing right here is the style of play I really like to go for. I really don't like sitting back and booming and that sort of thing. I prefer to play aggressively, sort of constantly be on my opponent. The only problem is when you're constantly on your opponent, you constantly lose units. I'm trying to remember what the dialogue is right here. I can't remember specifically what it is though. You notice just before I age up there, I know that the shipment's going to be ready, and I know that it's going to take a second to gather that wood from the barracks, so I click for the shipment first because the 200 wood isn't going to be quite there yet. And for the love of God, always put your settler wagons on crates if you can. They gather crates as about 1,000,000 miles per hour. You'll also notice that I notice he's got the tower. I'm thinking right here what he's going to do is just turtle. He's aged up with the tower and gold. He's maybe got a dock up, maybe going for some sea action. Probably going to get some longbows, try to position his buildings, maybe build some wall segments around there. So I want to get on him fast. Notice I right-clicked just right. I tried to right-click above my town center there. I was a little late. I wanted to get the rally point to set north rather than south. Just because, again, that's just a couple seconds you're losing walking around your town center. And you notice my explorers found a little villager to prey on. At this point I set my cavalry to control 2. My other control groups are the same as all my other games right now. Control 1's the explorer, all is about to become ranged infantry, and control 6 is my town center. Control 6 is my town center for everything. Don't ask me why, it just is. And so I go to prey on him. Meanwhile, I put my explorer in the group, and I pull back because there's some pikes there. Now you notice here I've got a group of ranged infantry. Right, I'm setting them to control 1. I cut them in half, or do I cut them in half? Yeah, I cut them in half there. You notice I had 2 groups shooting. The second group didn't manage to one-hit kill the unit, but it is more efficient. And I see that there's some pikes there. And so I go for them because, of course, I want my cav to be able to swarm in and just eat the longbows for supper. And one of the things is whenever your shipment's coming in, it's easy to lose track of your Uhlans when you're Germany. Ulms, whatever they're called, I don't really know. I'm not familiar with the German dialect. And one of the things when I was scouting is I saw that he had a barracks. And I can't remember if at this point I've seen he's had a second barracks, but he does have a second barracks. And so I know that he doesn't have any cav in almost all certainty. So I'm not worried about making pikes at this point. Normally I would. I've got my cav going around back. At this point they're control 3. My 2 infantry are control 1 and control 2. And basically right here, I'm just thinking maybe I can get some villagers here. He needs them on the economy a little bit. I've got him under some heavy pressure. Meanwhile, I'm not under a lot of pressure at home. This build, when I was aging up, also is one that you build a market in, and you research hunting dogs and gang saw while you're aging up. Now let's just try and get a little hunts there. Third card in Colonial, 5 Uhlans. The second was 3 settler wagons and 2 Uhlans. Probably one of the best cards in the game. Actually, Germany's age 2 cards in general, just because you get 2 free Uhlans, which are worth 300 resources, I guess, you could argue are the best cards in the game. Although some people don't agree with the 5 Uhlans, just simply because well, that's 750 resources. Whereas, you know, their shipment like 700 gold and 2 Ulans is worth 1,000 resources. So, I don't know, there's something to be said for that. But with my playstyle, I just like to have the military units and military advantage. And again, you've noticed that at this point I've got a stables up, and I'm adding Ulans into the mix. Stables is control 4, barracks is control 5, if you're wondering. And it's interesting how different people are good for different reasons. For whatever reason, control groups helps me keep track of things. I hate when I play and things get real sloppy. I know a guy like Nav, RIP buddy. He never played like a game with a control group in his life. Like, he used hotkeys, but control groups, nope. So, I don't know, it's interesting. And I mean, of course, he was 3 PR higher than me, so I mean, you know, it's just interesting. You can get to where you are for different reasons. And I know at high levels, you know, it depends too. You'll notice I don't see any pikes off the bat there, so I'm just gonna send my cav right in, and I see where they are right there. And I have 2 groups, one killing one killing the other. And you know, there's only 1 pike left there. I really don't care if my cav engages the 1 pike. He's under a lot of pressure here. I'm feeling real good about this right now. I'm trying to box him in there, and you know, he's just under a lot of pressure. And I ship 2 settler wagons, which is also a very good card. I wish more people would include it in their decks. And he resigns and says GG, just under too much pressure. And I'm gonna crack beer. Heading to the next game. So this cruises straight into the next game. This one I started recording, 51 seconds into the game or something like that. It's 2v2. This one is with Tattletale. This is me and him, so Lieutenant Colonel Major versus Lieutenant Colonel Major. Our ranks were actually identical. This time the map is Carolina. So the one thing is, I did start with a significant number of extra starting resources, which allows me to get a market up and to research hunting dogs, which of course is, if you can do that in Colonial, go for it. It will allow you to age up that much sooner. I do pick my C deck, which of course really is just the same Germany deck, just with 2 caravels in age 2 and a frigate in age 3. Pretty much the only time I ever take the C as Germany is in the occasional team game, or especially in a team game where the Aztec player has played cheap boats or something. And you know, I don't have any decks, and I don't think very many people do, where I have cards that increase the gathering rate of boats or anything. Just doesn't make much sense as Germany. But anyway, the matchup we have here is me and Tattle, Germany, of course, for me, and China for him. The matchup is against, let me think, Sioux and Britain. So we're thinking that this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup. Again, one of the things we're discussing a lot in this scenario is we're not exactly sure what we're going to do combo-wise. I've said what I'm going to do to him is I'm not going to ship 5 Ulans as my first card, which is often what I do in team games. I say that I'm going to ship 9 Expos, so I have a little bit of units to get rid of, like pikes and muskets. They're, I guess, anti-heavy infantry. I guess what I should say is so that we have a little bit of light infantry to deal with units that will eat up my Ulans and his 7 steep shipment if he sends it. I am going to make a stables first. I'm not going to go for the racks first in this particular case. He's going to go for the Old Han army, which of course is basically pikes plus Expos, and we're going to go from there. I've collected a Tomahawk as well as 2 War Dogs, which is you know, not a bad army for a Germany explorer. And we come across his stables here, and he's got his, I don't know, monk, or it's not a war chief, whatever he is. And we go up to the FB of the Sioux player. We just happen to stumble across it. This is one of those things that's sheer luck. And if Jim watches this, Jim is Strokey for those of you who don't know, he'll go apeshit right now. He would not be happy at seeing this site. He just thinks that this is ridiculous. And in a sense, there is something to be said for what he would say. I mean, you know, it's part of the game, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon, though. So, we do manage to get that stables down up front early game, which of course, yeah, you lose 200 resources, or maybe even less if he decided to cancel it. But the bigger hurt is that his cav is going to be just a little bit later getting out because he has to rebuild it at his base and train it again. If he's smart, he probably canceled it and started doing it right away, but not sure. So I've got the 9 bows and 2 Uhlans coming in, as well as Uhlans trading. One of the things is in this build and all my Germany builds is right off the bat, because you're a civ that's a pretty heavy military base civ early on, not heavy on eco, is your villager production might not be 100% constant. There might be the odd little skip in there. Your military production takes priority. Like, you're going into colonial with 17 villagers, or 17 villager population anyway. No, but like not a lot of other civs are. You're doing it with strong military backup. You can send 6 villagers essentially with your settler wagons. Don't freak out if you don't have your villager production steady. It's not like other civs where it's 100% must. If there's gaps in it, sure, as long as they're not huge gaps, don't worry about it. That first cav group that comes out, I send to raid, and in this case I send the 5 Uhlans as my second card, because we're going so heavy on the military early on. In a lot of situations you don't do that. You send the settler wagons, in most situations actually. And I notice he's got bow riders here. Watch this real quick. I send my 1 hurt cav, it just happened, you might have to rewind to see it, back for his bow riders to eat, and I save my 4 healthy cav. If I just run, there's a good chance that entire group just gets slowed down and the rest of them takes a significant amount of damage. And right here, essentially what I'm trying to do is organize my army all into one wave. And I also know that since that was bow riders I ran in up to there, that he has the stables up somewhere. Because of course you can't ship bow riders age 2. I actually don't know if you can ship them, period. You probably can. So right here, we're not too concerned about tower fire, more concerned about getting the barracks down. And I noticed that he's got a decent number of longbows, and I'm just trying to target my units on them. My Expos right here and my Explorer I have in a group, and they're just enough to one-hit kill a bow rider, which is really, really nice. Tato's also doing a good job of keeping his pikes on the units that he should be. You'll notice I left the screen for 2 split seconds also. Notice my cav on the left side there, just microing it onto the longbows. I left the screen for 1 second just for an idle bill. Get them back on anything. I also pressed H just for a quick shipment. Never leave the screen of a battle for more than that long. That's enough for it to be good game. and I try to sort of run around and sort of pin him from the back there. So of course at this point, that battle ended up going very well, simply because I think the Sioux player was delayed so much. Also, Brit's not too particularly quick. You notice again, just collecting my Ulans from my town center. And again, always trying to put your units on the counter unit. My Ulans are going to own his longbows. You know, they could have ran in, gone for something else, but that's what we'll go for. And his explorer is revived there at that point. I like killing explorers again and again a lot. Easy 45 experience, right? I mean, that goes a long way. You have to raid 4.5 villagers to get 45 experience, I think. I could be wrong on that. Who knows? You get 10 for training, and maybe it's 20 for killing. Regardless, you kill something like a pike, you get 8 experience. So, killing an explorer is nice. Killing a war chief's even nicer, get 100 XP. Early game, that's a long way to a shipment. And you notice I just tasked my settler wagon to gather those crates because he would gather them so quick. It's GG, doesn't matter anyway, but that is something that matters. Something that matters in another situation anyway. So what we have here, this is the last VOD. This is a long one. Long. Actual game time is about an hour and 10 minutes. Real time is about an hour and 20 minutes. So actually the lag wasn't too bad considering all of us went Imperial and we had to deal with that. Map is California. I was originally reluctant about posting this VOD because I thought it would be boring as hell to watch. I mean, who wants to see an H5 spam or blah blah blah. But I guess the reality is that, I mean, there's a lot of team players in the clan, and you know, a lot of team games go late game, and the fact of the matter is my team is 3 lieutenant colonels against 2 lieutenant colonels and a colonel, so the fact that this happens at decent ranks means that it's probably going to happen even more regularly at lower ranks. So for that reason I decided to post it, and actually one of the things my explorer was looking for is on this map early. There is the 150 wood treasure and some other real good wood treasures guarded by grizzly bears. He is real lucky to start with one right at his town center. Notice right there I zoom in the camera. Sometimes you get a situation where you've shot an animal, but there's and you want to click them to avoid the reload animation so that they gather on the unit or task a little bit faster. But the live animal's on top of it, and it's asking me if I want to shoot him, and I don't. So I zoom in so I can task him on the dead animal. You also notice that again in this situation I also eat the sheep. California is a map where sometimes you can start with 6, 10, 8, 12 sheep sometimes, and that can really prove to be significant, and you can shave a villager off your age up time, which can be quite important. So the teams we have here are Germany, of course me, Portugal, and Iroquois. Not Iroquois like Milo says. I'm sorry, bud, but I know a lot of Iroquois people. I live in the central area of Canada where the Iroquois roamed for many thousands of years, or however long they were here. So sorry, bud, you don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, getting back on track, where was I? Oh yeah, eating sheep. Yeah, you can get age up quicker. Oh no, that I already said that. I was talking about civs. So we have Germany, Portugal, Euro versus France, Dutch, and Britain. The colonel, if you're wondering, is Brit, and I always like to take note of what the OP player is, or likewise, I'll take note of what the weak player is sometimes. For example, I played a clan game the other day, and my apologies to this player. I can't remember his name offhand. I'd have to look it up. But he was an auto player, and he was ranked like about 14. And I knew if I went in and I raided him, like I could probably destroy half of his eco. And I did. It doesn't always happen, and he just can't replace it. So, it is important to note what civs some guys are of certain ranks. I actually am not happy when I look at the Eero deck there. I think he's chosen a pretty stupid deck. The France deck is also a little bit different. It doesn't have as many cav cards in there. This guy is obviously on a Smurf account or a new account or something. The reason is his home city is only level 26. He's Lieutenant Colonel, so I wonder what his actual rank was. But anyway, I don't mind because France doesn't need all those cav upgrade cards, right? Anyway, so we're discussing combos here. I don't know. I was really not feeling what they suggested, but they suggested double FF, so both the Eero and Port FF. I have no problem with the Port FFing. It's one of their better options. But when the Eero FFs, like, I don't know. To me, it's just their better options right now are to stay in Colonial. Mass Thomas, Aenas, Canyas, all that kind of stuff. But regardless, you know what? I'm just kind of like, whatever. I'm not going to argue this and be a noob. And so my build order here then is to ship 5 cav as my first card, to send 5 cav. Again, no settler wagons on the crates, not settlers. And what I'll do then is I'll have 2 groups of 5 cav, 5 that I will build, and 5 that I will ship, and I'll divide them into 2 control groups, control 1 and control 2, and we'll try to raid. What I like about that is in most games there's only one raiding party right away, so often a player will flag and draw attention to one while another can sneak in and grab some villagers for lunch. Another nice thing about Uhlans is pretty much they can outrun most every colonial unit. There's a couple of exceptions. Sue with the war chief, for example, he can catch them, but for the most part, with the patch boosting their speed, they run pretty quick. Like Ben Johnson or something. Although I think he tested positive for something he shouldn't have been using. I could be wrong. Maybe that's Carl Lewis or someone. I don't really know my runners too much. No, Carl Lewis was an old-time runner. Couldn't have been him. And you notice I tried to split my cav up right there. Just that 5 that I had going in there. I was tasking 2 to attack and 2 to flank, or 2 to sort of run in and box him in, so I could get it, but he's on the bell too quick. And I noticed that he's Dutch and he's gone for cav. The Dutch cav build order is a tricky one. It's really, really easy to mess up. It's not like a lot of situations where for example, a dual rack spam. The build order is pretty basic. I mean, cut your villagers just a little bit more on wood than food, and build 2 barracks and just continue pressing X. Like, it's really hard to mess that up. But the Dutch cav one, the fact that you need gold for villagers, you need to be balancing out how you're going to get your banks up with food and wood, how not to house yourself, and decisions of to age, when to age, etc. It's not an easy decision. And of course, that's just my thoughts on it anyway. Once I scout there, and I noticed that he's got the grenadiers, and his deck did have the siege upgrade for them, and I'm just like, oh shit. Also, feel free to disagree with anything I say in any of these games. Most of what I say needs to be taken with a grain of salt. I'm not a pro at all. I just kind of play once in a while and do my thing. I'm waiting for something OP to fall apart in my computer room or something right now. I was playing with playing a clan game yesterday, and actually one of the legs to my table fell off. Jesus, Murphy, it's not good. One of the things about this build that's heavy on cav early on is you don't make a market early on in it. It doesn't allow room for it. There is a way you can do it, but it slows your cav groups and everything down by about 10 seconds. Notice right here, actually what I played was Team Town Center, increased attack and hit points. He's a port. That's going to be huge for him with Colonial Militia too. And I'm hoping it'll get here fast enough. So, you know, he gets additional 50% to attack, 40% to HP. And what I'm trying to do is, well, first of all, I tried to task my cav on the grenadiers, but Blue's cav got on me pretty good. I'm trying to get him off the muskets. I'm really having a tough time though. They keep wanting to go back to those muskets for some reason. I don't know why, but that's really quite annoying. And here come the forest prowlers finally. I think that this battle, an entire game, would have gone differently. His army was just sitting there. And here come the goons also. And you know, this the only units my Uhlans are going to do really, really well against here are the grenadiers, but the muskets are following them so closely. I do want to follow them here and pick off as many as I can. The muskets don't appear to be giving me much attention, so if I can kill these guys, oh, there they go. As soon as they start to get on me, bye-bye. Well, then I see they're kind of separated, so well, I kind of don't decide to get them. Should have. My deck here is the standard C deck, basically all the same things as land. Because this is a 3v3, the only thing I have differently is in Age 3 I have Team 2 Settler Wagons, which is essentially like a 12 villager card in Age 3. You know, no matter what age you are, sending 12 villagers, no matter what civ, it's a good card. So again, one of the stronger cards in the game. You'll notice I see these grenadiers seem to be alone for a minute there. Try to run in and charge them. I also notice in the mini-map that someone has taken the C. You can't see it in this view, but it is yellow. So I'm hoping this, you know, this might give some guys, you know, an interesting view of how, you know, a 3v3 like this can shape up. And it's a little bit different since in a 3v3 you're primarily responsible for spamming one unit, maybe two, in a rare instance 3, but you know, it's usually just a single unit. And I pull some of my cav back there. I want to see if I can get some raiding going off during one of these battles. That's one of my sort of trademark moves, is during the battles I'm raiding a lot. And one of the things, purple's flagging for me to go down there, one of the things I don't like about the situation is, although it seems that I've scouted a fair bit, I checked for my explorer, of course he's dead, I wanted him to scout more, and I don't like paying 100 gold at this point because I don't have a ton of disposable resources, is despite the fact that we've scouted that much of the map, we can only see one town center. I really don't like that. Here I notice that there's a tower up. Tower usually indicates that there's a group of villagers somewhere around there. And I'm looking at the hunt, the gold mine, don't see any villagers. It's kind of annoying. Then I notice that I'm getting chased by some hussars. Also kind of annoying. And I also discover that he has more towers. In this game, again, another one of the reasons I was reluctant to post it is I'm very unsuccessful at what I'm doing. I've gone to raid with my 2 cav groups early on. Didn't go so well. Was kind of mad at that. In fact, I don't think I got any villagers. Or if I did, it was very few. I'm trying to micro at the battle at the town centers onto the grenadiers, but they keep going onto the cav and muskets, so I'm not happy about that. And I'm really not happy that our score is, losing badly to theirs. Their Dutch player has a real good eco at this point, despite Dutch being probably one of the worst civs at this point, if you ask me. Once they get rolling, they're pretty hard to beat. Their eco is pretty solid. They can do most things pretty well once they get rolling. The one thing I do feel good about at this point is they're all age 2 and 2 of our players are age 3. And I can see that he's spent 1,000 gold and invested in the siege army. Of whatever kind, I can't remember what the name of it is. Gives you mantles and rams. I also did decide, or actually no, how I got my explorer back here is quite funny. My teammate didn't communicate it, but he used spyglass to rescue my explorer, and I heard him speaking in Germany, speaking in Germany. Jesus, and I'm a teacher. I noticed that he starts speaking in German all of a sudden, and I'm like, well, if he's dead, he doesn't do that. At least I hope not. And I pop over to him with the slash key, which, for those of you who don't know, slash finds your explorer. I think on the standard set of hotkeys. Most of mine are all standard. I've reconfigured a couple, like my attack move. But yeah, and I try to get him to go scout behind a little bit. And I do find a town center back there. One of the things that I go for is I actually grab cavalry combat first. The reason is I find in this situation, and in a lot of situations similar, that like if I don't play those and I play like 8 Uhlans and 9 Uhlans and I go crazy with that stuff first, I end up popping myself later, and I can't send like cavalry combat because it has 4 Uhlans and I'm often popped. I'm communicating with my teammates here. I'm expressing real concern over the fact that there is a huge wave of muskets, of like 180,000 siege grenadiers heading towards the port player's base. And at this point I am age 3, and I do have veteran Uhlans with cavalry combat, if you're wondering, so they do a decent amount of damage. They will beat if you have veteran hussars with cav combat. They're more cost effective. So and I'm thinking, well, we might do not bad, since the Dutch player, we're hurting him real bad here, taking out a lot of his banks. The one thing I don't like though is someone can send him some resources and he can get those banks up like instantly if the other players have good ecos. It's not like some civs, like if you're Spain and you lose your villagers, it's like you're dead. You can't just instantly rebuild your eco, but you kind of can with these guys, kinda. I mean, no civ can really do that, and I'm just watching them. They've just eaten through that north port player, and they've actually got a pretty good big score advantage in this situation. We've done a lot of damage to blue. His score is back into double digits. Huh, hear my cell phone dancing in the background. I was in the original audio. Jeez, I still haven't checked who called that. I may have to get up and go and check who called that and take a bathroom break at some point too. Because this is a while, and when you're drinking a brewski, you're going to need that. It's funny I'm drinking a brewski because I'm also going to work out in a little bit, but what are you going to do? Anyway, back to the action here. I'm putting up a second town center, and the plan is to put up a third town center. I really didn't feel that the port player used his town centers to their maximum effectiveness. I don't know if I can critique him fully on that move. In his defense, he managed to get out a lot of his villagers. But the other thing is 3 town centers with colonial militia, and my team tectonic town centers or whatever can stand up to a hell of a lot. But I mean, you can't fully blame him for that decision because look at that wave of guys. I'm not sure how that would have played out differently. It's hard to say. But regardless, it is what it is, and I mean, you can't really be fully critical of all those sorts of things. I still hate that I'm not able to get in there with my cav that well. Those grenadiers have a lot of HP, and again, I'm trying to focus on them while the forest prowlers get on to the muskets. And I notice here that my other cav has got pinned by, I was hoping to be able to raid, by pikes and hussars. This game really has not gone well for me in terms of raiding and overall effectiveness. It just has not. And there I get up my third town center. Also, you'll notice in a minute here, I've got a lot of disposable wood. This isn't something I would normally recommend. It's very situational. The reason I have disposable wood is that I haven't been able to be gathering gold because I don't see a safe gold mine, and I can't really afford to be getting up plantations yet. So I go a little tower crazy, and I think I put up 4 towers to back up those town centers. And when the battle happens, you'll actually notice that it is enough to fend him off with a shipment and a little bit of army. So it does put an end to that attack. And I mean, it's funny, you look at the map now and it's like our starting positions are all gone to the left corner of the map. It's like the map control we once had is now gone. You can see all the guys building towers there. The British grenadier rush is really probably an underused strategy, actually. You know, it can be something that can be really, really, really strong. It's something that you don't see as much as maybe a person would expect, but I always check a player's deck for it, especially if I'm playing Jim. He has that card in probably all of his decks actually. And honestly, it may even be worthwhile, even if you don't use it, putting it in there as a bit of a decoy card. You know, just to have. One of the things I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to equally put in the same number of villager population in my town centers. Notice I said villager population, not villagers. So for example, 5 settler wagons would cause the same damage coming out of a town center as would 10 settlers, because of course they count as 2 pop. So if you have 5 settler wagons and 3 villagers in there, you have 3 villagers in there, you don't need to be in there. And of course 3 town centers dealing 135 damage each with about 9,000 HP is something to be reckoned with. Of course there's a little bit of tower fire getting in there as well, plus colonial, well, it's not colonial militia, Minutemen from 3 town centers. And at this point, I've got, you know, a lot of guys on wood, and I need to start getting up my plantations and more mills, and I really just need to boom at this point. The game is well in, and I'm still in 30 villagers. And I gotta be right back. I need a bathroom break and I need to check my cell phone. So I don't know. I can't remember if anything happens in the next little bit. I know I send these Minutemen and skirmishers to try to get some villagers. Again, to relatively no effect. What's new about this game? Most stuff seems to be to no effect. But yeah, I'll be back shortly. As Lazy would say it, Daddy's back. Or he may say greetings, or something like that. Trying to see where we're at here. Oh yeah, Minutemen are still, and a few skirmishers are still going to raid. I noticed that Purple has those fire pits set up in a rather, shall we say, vulnerable position. He is quite close to the enemy, and that proves to be bad later on in the game. Generally, your fire pit should be set up in a safe place, but again, since he's been wiped off the map just like Yellow, we're kind of stuck with what we got. One thing I don't have in this deck that I wish I would have had in this deck was Age 3 Mills Constrained Settler Wagons, along with the Age 4 Settler Wagons Gather Faster, adds 35% to their gather rate. Which with all 20 Settler Wagons, which of course equals 40 villagers, well, 40 villagers at gathering 35% faster is equivalent of an extra 14 villagers. So that again is very nice. I don't know why I didn't play the deck with that in this game. I just didn't feel that it was going to be necessary, that the game would go on as long as it did. I noticed that Yellow has got mortars out, and at a point here I type and ask him if they're 50 range mortars, and he does say yes, that they are 50 range mortars, which is real nice. Because of course Culves or any other land-based unit can't reach that. I think the only other thing that could reach it would be a monitor ship, but that's just that. And I do have a dock up at this point. I'm expecting that some help on the sea is going to be needed. And here this player pauses. I go to work on my pause micro. No, it is not me. However, you'll notice one thing with pause micro, as I seem to have earned quite a reputation from it. Every time a game is paused, somebody says, pause micro. Yeah, I didn't know that there was like 18 goons and 30 pikes, or vice versa, heading right into me, so that really did me no good, and in fact probably left me worse off. And if you just saw it, seriously, like all my Ulans melted there. Like that is an unbelievable thing that those grenaders just did. Literally, they threw those things, and it was like boom. Like that was like 20 of them. That's like 3k worth of resources, and they just melted. Absolutely got owned. And again, I'm trying to focus. Not trying to focus on the goon, of course. Trying to get on the skirms. I probably should have left them back in that situation rather than sent them in, because they'll do minimal damage for, how effective they can be. What you want to always do is keep your stables. I'm constantly adding them as I can afford to spam a greater number in the same control group, and have a rally point set up, where they're going to be coming into the situation at an effective point. And they're so heavily walled up and turtled, and they have such good building arrangements, houses blocking, pathing in to get at villagers and stuff, that any raiding I seem to try to do has been virtually ineffective. Can't seem to touch them at all. One thing that's happened in the game that's of significance to mention, though, is the Portuguese player on our team has actually gone imperial. Their team has 2 fortress players like ours and 1 industrial, but he's gone imperial, and he's going to make imperial Jeanettes, if that's how that's pronounced. So, geez, that's a lot of words I haven't no idea how to pronounce. That was actually pretty bad of me there to train those Ulans by clicking on my stables. Here I ring the bell. Normally you want to try to avoid ringing the bell when there's cav coming in, but I don't really have time to organize how that's going to work, and I hate retasking villagers on mills and stuff. I hate when things get sloppy. This game's already gotten sloppy enough for me. I'm not liking this at all. I'm not liking that it's turned into a big boom spam fest. I like when things stay in colonial, and you can just keep track of things, and you can just keep doing what you're supposed to do. But that's just not happening, so I gotta ring the bell. And one thing I notice here is that there's not a whole lot of goons left in here, and I'm thinking, like, thank God we've managed to pin them down. But then there comes Blue, who's back from the dead finally, after we absolutely murdered his base, walked over it, got all of his banks dead, got enough of a certain, or a good number of units, the villagers dead. And there, I tried to zoom in again, and I'm just shocked at this. Like, the grenaders, like, there's obviously a massive group of them, but they just are, like, using their area damage and just murdering my Ulans. It's not even the Reuters that are killing them. I could care less if the Reuters kill them at this point, but they're just getting murdered. And again, I've got my 3 town centers up, and I'm constantly making villagers, and I'm trying to get that villager count up as high as I can. One thing that's nice about Germany is you can go above 100, because your settler wagons don't count in your villager count from your town center. So actually, you start with 3 settler wagons, you ship 2, plus you get 3 in colonial, plus another 2, plus 2 in the third age with the team card, which means you end up having 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 is 10. 10 settler wagons, which is actually worth 20 villagers. So you can actually kind of get a villager population of like 120 without any real funky stuff happening. With your settler wagons training from mills, you can actually get up to 140, but 120 is normally about as high as I'd like to go in this situation. Or in most situations, simply because then where's the population for your army? There's the odd exception that I'll go like 130 on like C or something like that. Not with Germany, but as other civs. Especially as a team game where if I've got schooners or something, I can feed some resources to other guys, or I've got a few select units that are really strong that I can just really deal a crippling blow with. Or if I want to just jump to imperial and then delete 20 fishing boats, that's cool too. And again, like I'm not too like I feel that I'm moving with a reasonable speed this late in the game. Usually late in the game, things get pretty slow, and they kind of do to an extent. Especially, it's maybe a little bit hard to tell in the VOD, but the lag sometimes, it makes it really quite difficult. Right now, this is almost a little bit mental recording this, since it almost feels like my computer's lagging, which there is no reason at all that it should be. The processor and video card and RAM and everything else are more than capable of handling this, but it makes me feel like this narration is going to give up on me. One thing is Germany, the cavalry couriers from the arsenal, an extra 10% to HP, is really quite nice. Also included in this deck is the advanced arsenal, which will give you the 30% attack bonus to buildings. Uhlans can work pretty good at sieging factories and whatnot. There, of course, is the frigate that I've shipped. I'm finally aging to industrial here. I've almost got 100 villagers. In fact, I probably do have 100 villagers, but of course I'm training over that amount. One option as a German player is in industrial you can have a card that's a 6 settler wagon card. That's a very good card, and it is a card I would use. You could use in your deck for sure. The reason I don't have it in my deck is because I find most of my games don't go to industrial. Although lately I've just played a behemoth number of games that I've gone like I think in my life the number of games I've played that have gone 1 hour plus has been like 5 up until 2 weeks ago, and I'm at I've played like 5 just last week alone, plus this game, and I was, holy shit, that's so long for a game. I'm not sure what to make of that. Another thing that might have been useful in this situation, you can upgrade how fast your cav are training from the church, but not from... I don't have the card in my deck, which will give me, cav train 90% quicker, well, when combined with the church. I'm not sure if Germany... Well, yeah, Germany can get instant cav on Great Plains with an upgrade there. Or some of the maps where, the natives give you a fast unit or fast cav training bonus. And I noticed that blue comes in here with a whole bunch of carabiner, which are basically guard Reuters. To be honest, the counter system's a little bit screwy here. You can kind of go after that with your Uhlans. If you have Kapzika, or whatever your guard Uhlans are called, they'll do okay in that matchup, because they can slice them up in 3 hits, even though that they're guard. I mean, they're 1 pop and mine are 2 pop, but still, it's, and I've got such an eco, and the spam is good enough that I don't need him running in there killing all my villagers. He can just get killed himself. One of the things in this situation that I'm trying to think about the whole game is adaptation. Their unit combo. Like, what could I make that would be better? You know? And those grenadiers are really throwing a wrench in things, which is weird because they're not usually a unit that would play significant enough of a role in a game that it would ever matter. However, in this situation, you know, it's like, well, Cav is like seems to be the only thing I can throw at those things, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything. It just seems to be getting owned royally. One thing is I really should be trying to place that mill not right near the ocean. A ship could come on, any kind of ship, even a caravel could come and basically take out a lot of villagers, take me off that. That was a nice flank right there. One of the things I was actually happy about in the game, where if you get his ranged cav pinned in there along, being pinned with you know, the grenadiers, that's good. And why I can't build my factory takes that long, I don't know. It's just one of those games. You'll notice I have, at this point, no villagers in queue. I'm at my max pop for villagers. Also notice that I've got a little bit of an excess food. One of my teammates has played the quick food gathering for teams. I've upgraded both from the mill. I only need an extra 1,000 to go imperial, so I decide to do that. Also notice that Yellow's lost all of his ships on the sea, and I'm like, oh, big sigh. You see the fort's going down, which is a good thing, because I don't know what it is about forts. They tend to cause a lot of grief. It's kind of weird. It's not like they do that much damage to units. It's not like they have that much HP. You know, it just seems to be that, I don't know if it's a mental thing or if it causes pathing problems with your units, or because a guy can spam units out of it, but I don't know, forts sometimes just really bother me. So anyway, I'm halfway to imperial here, aged with 2,000 gold, as opposed to 12 skirmishers and a heavy cannon. The 12 skirmishers would only be veteran, and the heavy cannon, well, whatever. The reason I want the 2,000 gold is to work towards my upgrades from the capital. Oops. That was kind of OP, wasn't it? And you notice we're getting ourselves into all kind, like, even they're trying out combos now. Like, the French player has switched to guard skirms. Oh, actually, no, he's on imp skirms. I think he's in imperial age at this point. Regardless, there's been a couple times where my explorers died and I have revived them. I try to get him to walk around just through bases to spot where factories are. Even if I just sort of task him by shift clicking him. Again, I don't know why the hell it won't let me build in that spot. That's really weird. One of those weird glitches, maybe. Even if I don't see him at the moment walk past the factory, I have the line of, you know, in the fog of war, you can see the factory after, and you know, be thinking about that. And one of the things with factory placement is you generally want to try to place it in a secure place. Of course, you know, you can replace villagers, but you can't replace factories. Although apparently on Age Sanctuary it's been said that you can. Of course, it's considered cheating, and you will get banned for it. So, but I guess it was more of a problem for deathmatch games or something where, oh, it was not only could you replace them, you could build 4 factories. Somehow you can select 2 decks or something or other. I don't know, beats me. Anyway, we seem at this point, I'm feeling a little better, except for the fact that our hero player is not imperial. Everyone else in the game is. And for an Euro player, it's like you have villagers on the fire pit, and it's like, well, you can't have that strong of an eco, it seems. You can have strong units, yes, but I mean, just some of those factors, that replaceability factor and whatnot. Euro just, to me, doesn't really seem to be a good team civ late game. Early game, yeah, sure, I think they're fine, but when it goes late, not great. Ports are pretty good. Ports are actually very good, and Germans are pretty good also. But Euro, not feeling it that much. So now, as you can see now at this point, we've lost the sea altogether. You know, there's 4 fishing boats out there, and it's like, oh gee, we're losing more and more and more. Also, if you've got a huge influx of resources, your spam is going well, and you need to trade some stuff at a market. I traded so I could upgrade my Uhlans to Imperial Uhlans there. Please do so. You also notice I look back at the base to see a monstrosity of 171 siege times 1.3 grenadiers, Imperial grenadiers with all those frickin' damn cards back there. So of course they got to send the Uhlans back. I see that there's that French gender main dragoon combo. I ignore that because if those guys roll any further, like, villagers are just getting owned by them. They're not supposed to own villagers. Their stats are just so big. And actually, another mistake I made in this game is I didn't make a market and upgrade my villager HP. I think I do it like 10 minutes from now, which is absurd. I made a market, but I just didn't upgrade villager hit points. Thank God I'm able to pin some of these guys down right here. But I mean, the damage they're doing is just annoying as hell, frustrating, yada yada, etc. I notice on the mini map right now that yellow's going to do something, or he's scouting, or I don't know what he's doing, but I like that. One of the things that really makes me mad at this point in the game, really, is my control, or not my attack move is set to Control Z. I think most people's by default is Alt, but anyway, mine's Control Z. And Control Z, if you go Imperial, no longer does attack move. It brings you to the capital. So there's several times when it's just a creature of habit. I press Control Z, I end up at the capital, not doing attack move like I'm supposed to. Meanwhile, my units are running around like idiots. Right there, it happened. And I'm like, gee. And then eventually I just get mad and I delete my capital after I've done the upgrades, because you just can't do that. This is a point where I wish I had that unique church card, because I could siege this town center way quicker, get way more villager kills. What I've done is disposable gold. What do? Go to the church, research mercantilism, so I can send, did I say unique church? I meant advanced arsenal, to get that 1.3 damage versus buildings. And I go to task on villagers, and I'm like, hey, there wasn't as many villagers in there as I thought. I'm not exactly sure where they went, if they ran off behind the battle, or if they went into one of those towers, or where they went. And then also on the mini-map, there's some blue flashing, and I'm just like, oh, like, what now? Like, what now? Oh, look at that. Reuters. And I'm kind of like, well, they don't kill villagers that fast. Yeah, bad idea. They kill villagers quick enough. They're Imperial. I ended up losing almost 30 villagers at this point. But because I'm Imperial and I've made all of the upgrades for the mills, the wood, and the plantation at the capital, and there, I delete it. I'm able to still maintain my spam, just barely, but I am, and rebuild my eco. And that'll happen again a few times before all is said and done. And at this point in the game, you might be wondering, what have you got yourself into watching? You're like, geez, I got to be somewhere in 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. My fiance's got supper on the table. It's getting cold. It's 1 a.m. I got to work really early. You know, you may be wondering a lot of those questions. And I'm sorry, man. I just am sorry, guys. I think I'm talking to myself a lot right now. Well, I mean, that's kind of part of narration. But the movie Castaway was on TV last night. Tom Hanks ends up on a deserted island for 4 years. Comes back, find out his wife has moved on to another man because she thought he was dead. And she kind of stays with the other man. Kind of sucks, eh? Anyway, back to the game. That's probably less than you've wanted to hear. Those imperial hussars are causing a lot of villager damage to purple, and purple is still age 4. And you know, I'm just like fuming at this point. The scores are like, their scores right now are 1100, 1700 to like 700, 700, 566 on our behalf, and it's like, oh man, like, how on earth are we gonna do this? There comes a point when score doesn't matter as much. We're almost getting there, when it's all more so about unit combo and how you use them. At this point, I am really, really, really thankful that the France player is on either a Smurf account or a second account, or something where he doesn't have a couple cav cards, and his Imperial Gender Mine only have 1000 HP, and they also aren't instant. So I'm really quite thankful about that. They also only have 66 attack as opposed to whatever they normally have, which is quite ridiculous. Anyway, you'll notice on the I got on the sea going. I should have done this a lot sooner, especially because I have the eco to afford this. It's just there's a lot of things going on. Can't think about it, what to do. I'm feeling really discouraged that we have any chance at winning this game. I really should have got on the sea sooner with monitors. I honestly think that this game, you know, this is just kind of a crazy game. I mean, these grenaders are just insane. Like, I've never, like, I mean, I've made them like this strong myself in some games, but I've never seen them play this much of a role in a game in my life. Like, it's unbelievable. One of the things that you can do with a monitor is you can shoot buildings that aren't in your line of sight, because their range for their long range attack is 100, which is pretty cool. You can hover the mouse over a building, whatever that you want to attack that's out of your line of sight, left click on it, and if you actually hover the mouse over it like this, you see, I noticed that it hits gone because obviously I set off the Treasure Guardian, but I noticed where it says factory in the black text box there, it doesn't disappear, which means for whatever reason that factory has not died. And I'm like, I could have sworn that that should have one-hit killed the factory, but it didn't. Maybe it's because I'm used to only using monitors after I've been on a sea battle and I have an upgrade or two for the ships, and in which case then they will one-hit kill them. But regardless, that is how you can tell if they are killed or not. And that does prove to be a small factor, maybe reasonable size, later in the game actually. Right here, I'm feeling real good. I'm like, oh man, like there's like 50 villagers. There's like 3 plantations, 3 settler wagons. Like, we can hurt them a lot over there. But you know, it seems to be like almost futile over there. You know, we should be doing a lot of damage, but it just ain't happening. And you notice that I spammed a whole bunch of barracks closer. Ideally what you want to have, or not barracks, stables, sorry. Ideally what you want to have is them all over the map. And you'll notice that my base is, and Teal's base, and, well, not Teal, Purple is getting eaten alive by grenaders again, just like mad. And there's also Imperial Dragoons from France in there. And I'm just, you know, again, like the score, we're outnumbered badly. Almost all of them are into quadruple digit scores. Our Euro is still age 4. I'm just like, oh, gee. And, you know, I'm trying to task the monitor ships to, you know, take out some of their mills. Not that you can expect that they can't afford to replace it. They for sure can. But the ideal is that all these things will add up over time, and all these things that are keeping them busy, that, you know, you just can eventually win some of these battles. You notice now when I'm using the attack move, Control and Z, to task various things, that, you know, it's not bringing me back to my capital, not just really bugging me. I've only got a small group of imperial Uhlans here. I have 4, and I sent 5 over more because that factory is there, and I'm like, oh, please don't notice, please don't notice, please don't notice. Because at this point of the game, it's all about hurting the other player's eco. If you could win the fight straight up, you would do it. For example, if France had those Gendarmerie fully upgraded with 1100 HP instead of 1000, and with 70 attack or whatever instead of 66, it might be a little bit different. However, it isn't. You notice one thing I actually did right there is the game went real laggy for a minute. I actually took a print screen right there. Whenever a game goes real laggy for a minute like that, I'm always concerned about drop hackers or drop trickers or freeze, etc., etc. And it's just nice to have a little bit of evidence for your case if you need it. And actually, this is one of those games where you end up making so many mills and so many plantations that you wish you would have played land grab. I'm just very happy that we didn't have like a British player on our team who was like eating up all the wood. Again, that mill right there is placed in a horrible location. Shouldn't be there. And I noticed that that factory over there, he did notice those Uhlans, just barely. I mean, it's got 1600 HP left out of, I believe, 5500. And you'll notice here that I'm training villagers again for my 3 town centers because I have lost a significant number. Again, I'm just spamming some stables like mad there. I'm trying to be able to produce military wherever I may need it. And again, the hero still is age 4. His score still is in the 500s and difficult time. At this point in the game, my cav has all the upgrade cards it needs. Cards are almost useless. I mean, for my situation, they maybe for other players they have some left that are worth playing. My cards just don't. They're not going to do much for me. The only thing I've got left that's worth sending at this point is the fort. Just, you know, one of those barriers that I can send. And trying to remember where all your cav is at once is sometimes difficult, especially late game. Like I said, this is the exact situation I hate. Things are just getting sloppy. I'm still remembering to grab my free Uhlans most of the time, which is pretty good. And I'm noticing he's got banks back there, etc., etc. I'm looking to see if I can maybe flank around, get something. Trying to task idle villagers during travel time. You know, you've got to keep that eco going, even though it is an all-out spam war. And I'm thinking like, ooh, wow, like Yellow's Cold Note, pretty good with his Imperial Jeannettes versus a few heavy cannons and a few Imperial Carabiners. And I go and I'm about to click on the health of one of these factories, the one I was attacking before, to find that it has not been repaired. And I'm like, yes, I can wipe that thing out right there. And I'm like, yes, time to kick ass. Just because that's so satisfying. That's the equivalent of 10 villagers getting their heads sliced. Jeez, that's pretty vulgar. However, I return to my base to find out that the same thing is happening to me. Therefore, I must kill the second factory. One of the things you'll notice is don't just right-click on the factory. This might be for new players. You right-click right beside the factory so they all run in as close as they can run in, and then you siege. If you just right-click on it, they'll try to circle around it, and maybe some of your outer guys will anyway, just because there's not that much room. but they end up taking a longer time to siege. I mean, you've got your counter unit right there, as in the ones that counter me. You know, you may not cause nearly as much damage. So again, we're doing a little bit of damage to the Dutch player. Euro still hasn't aged up. And, you know, the 2 factories that went down, I'm feeling decent about. It's a Brit player, though. A Brit player with a full eco doesn't necessarily need factories, especially when he's causing so much damage to our eco, and a Grenader spam like that isn't exactly super heavy on resources. One of the things I'm trying to get him to do here is get in with the 50 range mortars. Some of my eco has died there. Cards being relatively useless, but since it has, I do send the 3 settler wagon. I noticed that purple has seemed to have done a relatively good job there. One of the things I have thought about at this point of the game is what significance could war wagons have. They have full upgrades from all those cards, which means they'll have over 1,000 hit points. They will have hand resistance, which doesn't do me very good versus dragoons and Reuters, as well as any ranged infantry they can throw at me. They're not using a lot of hand infantry based units, which kind of, or not hand infantry, or cav, or you know, whatnot. So that crosses my mind. I mean, they cost the same as a gender main. They're also heavy on the pop. And at this point in the game, I'm just like, I want to kill somebody, because it looks like we're being drop tricked right here. You get the flashing screen of death from an enemy player, and it's like, the score is still heavily in their favor, but you know, we've infiltrated a base pretty good. And you know, I'm trying to type, I'm trying to drop too, but nobody can all click together, not to mention their teammates are clicking. And I'm just like, oh gee, I'm like, this flashing screen will probably go on forever. I'll lose PR, I'll lose ELO. Not that that's the hugest concern for me, it's just really damn annoying. You know, you kind of want what's just and what's right and what's fair. And to play a game that's gone on this long and to have it end like this is just like a royal kick in the nuts by Queen Elizabeth herself. And another thing is that I'm concerned about is like, oh shit, is this somehow, it's not me. Usually when I leg out, all of those will come up for whatever reason, and in the 2 other 3v3s I tried recording, it did go out of sync, but it went out of sync like sub 10 minutes, so I wasn't sure what was up with that. And ESO seemed to be generally weird then, so I don't know. But he comes back. He's alive, thank God. Just as his town center goes down. Like, that is so suspicious that his town center is about to go down, and like, there's all those villagers in it. We've got imperial units surrounding it, and you know, whatever. Finally, too, Euro player goes imperial. Again, I'm just trying to spam some stables there. It's one of the things with the lag, you can't just go click, 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 and get 10 or 11 or 12 or however many you want built. So I just click outrageously in a circle, and whatever happens, happens. It's usually good enough. But of course, who shows up at 171 times 1.3 siege? Grenaders. Just like Tequila, always there to ruin the party. And you can't just have one, you have to have 10 or 11 or 12 or 20 or 30 show up. So that's when the bouncers, the Uhlans, show up. And I notice the bottom, there is Blue's factory, the Dutch factories. If you can take out the Dutch factories, since he's only got a 50 villager population plus those banks, the banks are instant replace, but you can cause a significant number of damage. I really want to get those 50 range mortars there. It's proving to be a little bit difficult. The Euro player is complaining that he needs wood there. I send him some wood. My guess is that he needed the wood for the imperial upgrades for his economy, which I have no problem sending him. I've got a ridiculous amount of resources at this point. I think I have 40k gold and I don't even know, 10k food or something like that. Actually, I may be in only 4 digits for food, but regardless, I've got a huge amount. And wood isn't super easy to come by. I've also either I've switched or I'm about to switch one of my factories to wood because I am concerned that we may chop out the wood on this map and there may be a player who needs it, or I may need it for things like going to the sea or whatnot. Sorry, as I was saying before, that player just about dropped. Go figure, he's also the colonel, eh? Maybe it was just, you know what, it was probably just an honest thing, but you know, I have a tough time giving guys the benefit of the doubt because in 3v3s there's a lot of goons out there. They're just, you know, they care so much. It's like, why do you have to pull your plug or freeze it up or whatever you want to do? Like, who really cares? Your rank's going to be inflated anyway, and you're going to just suck. But anyway, so what I was thinking about was like, oh, well, I could make skirmishers or DOPs and just like build a barracks in the back, upgrade them in the back, veteran guard, imperial, but you know, I don't have any cards for them. Like, how effective are they going to be? So that's something I'm sort of keeping in the back of my mind, and I'm switching to some war wagons here. I'm going to try adding them in the mix. Simply because of the replaceability factor. They seem to, I think that they'll probably last longer. There's a heck of a lot of imperial cav there, which is going to cause me a lot of damage. Their slow rate of fire is going to drive me crazy though, and I'm really hoping that these guys don't run to my factory. My factory is right there, one of them anyway. I actually like how German factories look. I think they're one of the coolest looking factories in the game, more cooler than like, you know, other Civs factories. And of course the fire pit is right there in the line of fire. You know, there's been so much going on that it's really been hard to truly wall this off. You know, and with the 100 siege grenadiers, I don't know that, I mean, it would buy us a little bit of time, so that might be bad. I'm trying to just micro a little bit so the overkill again isn't horrific. That was nice of Yellow to pop those guys into melee. That was very smart of him. Longbows in melee are, I mean, if you're a British player and you ever get them in melee, you're just frustrated. And I'm just sitting here doing a little bit of math in my head, thinking about cost effectiveness. And you think about, let's compare Uhlans to war wagons, just in terms of maybe life expectancy right here. So let's take 6 pop. So if you have 6 pop, you have 3 Uhlans at 460 HP. So we'll say about 500, which is about 1500 HP for 6 pop. But if you take 2 war wagons, just over 1000 HP, you get about 2000 HP for 6 pop. The type of damage they'll issue and the type of unit they'll issue it won't be the same, but it's interesting to think about units in that regard. You take a unit like Cossacks, for example. They're actually one of the more cost-effective, or I mean pop-effective cavalry units in the game. I mean, for 1 pop, you know, you get a hell of a lot. And they're really quite cheap too. I mean, 90 food, 60 gold. I'm really quite thankful that there's not a Sioux player in this game. The Sioux in team games is they can really just, they can change the dynamics completely. I'm not necessarily saying that it's for the worse, but things can change a lot, a lot. I'm massing a little army on the sea. One of the problems on this map I find is that there's not a lot of places you can put a dock. There's a lot of cliffs there, and a lot of ramps that don't allow you to place a dock. So that's really damn annoying. And this player's just asked for a pause right here. I will also be right back just a minute. Oh yeah, and pause micro for the win. Okay, I'm back. Where are we at here? Oh yes, I'm just about to make some barracks. Here's the barracks I make in the back, just for upgrading units from. The ones I make in the front here are for spamming from. I really wish I could have spammed and came in the back door right there somehow. Either put a couple villagers on a boat or a couple galleons there. But I don't know. The game just didn't go long enough. Didn't go long enough. The game it didn't happen quite that way. I'm upgrading my ships too. The upgrades for ships really make a huge difference. Like, with all those cards, like some things like armor plating adds 50% HP. Like that's huge. Plus all your imperial upgrades, your other broadside attack upgrades, etc., etc. And I notice he's got a couple fully upgraded towers along the sea there. I'm also wondering if he's got a little bit of eco there. He can't have a lot left. There's about 10 or 12 whales in the sea, and I probably have line of sight on most of them, or close to anyway. You think you would see something. And I noticed that Teal does have a few fishing boats down there in the mini-map, so I do task to kill them. And it seems finally at this point that the British player, I only say seems because we'll see, has ceased production of those 171 attack grenadiers, or 171 siege. Their attack is actually pretty high. It ends up being like 54 attack with an area of 4. You of course change the area from 3 to 4 from the arsenal. I'm just waiting for my DOPS to get upgraded to Imperial. They're just doing the guard upgrade right now before I elect to make a switch to that. If you're ever to have any civs that deal good with late game France, other than another France civ itself, Germany and ports are probably two of the better civs to do it. Ports, of course, really good goons. Germany, of course, can have war wagons and strong Uhlans along with doppel soldiers. So, just something else to think about. I wish I could have given an example here of some decent ship micro. I really can't, though. This isn't your standard sea war, and really I'm just trying to task these guys on killing the units that are killing them before they start killing things like buildings. Because I'm in my head, I'm thinking, you know, what's he gonna have there that's gonna kill those ships other than those towers? He's not gonna be sending over imperial culverins or anything. I don't think this hasn't been a cannon-based war at all. He's, you know, it'd be weird if he had those floating around. And you know, because they can't deal with those 50 range mortars anyway. Not to mention the 20 range Jeanette. This is starting to look like a deathmatch game right about now, which is really quite silly. But it happens, you know, it does happen. Games do go this long. And ho ho, there come the beasts from the east. With no cards upgraded, they're doing 120 siege. Hand damage, 68 with an area effect of 2, and they do I think it's 2 times versus cav and 3 times versus light infantry. They don't do good versus heavy infantry, which is kind of a weird counter system. They do also have hand resistance as opposed to ranged resistance. So, you know, most infantry hitting and running can beat doppels. However, the plus side to them at this point is they've got so much HP, and I need to stand corrected about him having nothing to counter those boats because he sent some mortars over. The plus side is that they've got so much hit points that they can last a fair bit before they actually die. Downside, of course, being also that they are 2 pop. However, see factory, as Borat would say, very nice, very nice. You might say, you like my green cape? Again, you see, the problem is I don't pay much attention to these things in team games. I just kind of like to mess around in team games like I've been doing a lot lately. I really shouldn't be green. Should not be green. Should not be green. At all. If you look on the mini-map, the purple and the blue don't really stand out at all. It's probably some of the better colors to be. Probably may have actually played just a minor role in my early raiding. Hard to say. Sometimes you raid really good players and they just can't. I mean, they're just on the town bell or dragging villagers into their town center, whatever it is that they're doing. It's kind of funny, you see the timer clock spinning around for those guys and you see like, oh man, like you're training units from 1,000,000 stables or 1,000,000 barracks, and yes I am. Go back to my ships. Now that I think I can maybe kill those mortars or something. Another bank down. One of the interesting things that I never really thought about is since the build experience for a bank as a Dutch player is decreased, the kill experience is also decreased. Usually how the standard procedure is you get double the experience for killing something that you would for building something. So you know, that's I wonder how balance is affected by that. I guess it makes the nerf slightly less, but I don't exactly know how someone could make Dutch more playable. They're a very peculiar civ. I mean, you can age up at 4 minutes. It doesn't really seem to do you any good. You know, if China, or not China, maybe if Japan and India got nerfed, it'd be some more competitive matches. I'm looking at that factory thinking in all likelihood due to the siege power I have, that's going down. And somebody finally says, GG, wee, yay, party time, 1 hour and 15 minutes later of game time and 1 hour and a half of real time, or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, thank God. And thank God I've made it through this narration. I'd like to thank people who have actually sat down to watch this. If any feedback, I really do appreciate. Any discussion you may want to bring up from this, you agree with something, disagree with something, want to ask about something, please go ahead. I'd be really happy to. I hope you've learned something from each of the perspectives of Germany.